Welcome to the GDPR Weekly Show, one of the top 5 GDPR podcasts worldwide. Here is what's coming up in this week's episode.
Welcome everyone to episode 200 of the GDPR Weekly Show, the number one GDPR podcast worldwide. Really pleased to have this 200th episode. It's a special episode. We're not having the news like we normally do. This week we've got a special interview with the number one UK motivational speaker, Mr. Brad Burton, who we'll be coming to in a moment. But first, a quick message for all our listeners.
Hey, it's GDPR Weekly Show, episode 200. We value our 75,000 listeners. So from all of us, thank you.
So, yeah, a big thank you. And we're also running a competition for episode 200, but I'll come to that a bit later because Brad's waiting in the wings. So, Brad, take it away. Tell us, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about Brad the person. How did you get to where you are today?
Great question. So listen, you said on the intro that I'm the UK's number one motivational speaker. I'm not. I'm the UK's number one motivational business speaker, but we're going to get to that. So listen, born 1973, dad left when I was 6 months old. Mum brought me up as a single parent. I, a bit of a class clown, left school with no qualifications, got a job working in retail, then somehow managed to get myself a job working as a computer games writer on magazines, then managed to get myself shot at in Manchester, then moved away, then had 4 years of depression, 2 years on benefits, been addicted to drugs twice, and then I started my own business back in 2004. And then the one that I'm most well known for is for networking, which became a national business networking organisation. So it all and since that point I've written 4 books and I'm the UK's number one motivational business speaker. We can get to how I became that later on. But, you know, I think if you listen to that kind of brief summary of my life, it's quite an eclectic, it's not a linear skill set. It's not a linear life, far from it. So it depends. 2 versions of Brad. You can either have Brad Burton, the guy who left school with no qualifications, got addicted to drugs twice, done 4 years on benefits, delivered pizza at 31, got shot at when I was 21. Or you can have Brad Burton, the UK's number one motivational business speaker, 4-time best-selling author, and founder of For Networking and Network Central. Which Brad Burton do you want, Keith?
We're going with the motivational speaker. Motivational business speaker. Excuse me. we're going with the motivational business speaker today, Brad.
Good.
So how did you become number one UK motivational business speaker?
You know what, Keith? It's a question that everyone always asks me. Yeah, and actually, probably the simple answer is I just made a website and said I'm the UK's number one motivational business speaker. Now, here's the thing. The first person you've got to convince of your brilliance is you. So if I said to you, I'm the greatest, which box am I referring to, Keith?
Muhammad Ali.
The greatest of all time. Now, actually, Muhammad Ali got beat 5 times, but the reason that we refer to Muhammad Ali as the greatest of all time 40 years on is because he referred to himself. So the first person you've got to convince of your brilliance is you. And actually, when it comes to the UK's number one motivational business speaker, it is a term that never existed until I made it up. There was always motivational speakers, there was business speakers, but there was never a motivational business speaker. There's no record of it. I've Googled it. There's no record of motivational business speaker prior to me coming up with it. So this is the thing. It's a bit like you and I in a nightclub and seeing a £20 note on the floor and me saying, Keith, pick that up. And you say, well, you saw it. No, but you're nearer. And whilst we're talking about it, somebody comes up, picks the 20 quid up, walks off. And then what happens is you and I start arguing. Well, you should have picked it up. You saw it first. You were nearer. Boom. And that is exactly what I did. I saw something. I saw an opportunity to dominate a space that never existed. It sounds like it's been there since day one. It really hasn't.
Brilliant. I love that analogy as well, the nightclub and the £20 note. I think that's great. So let's move it forward a little bit then. So everything's going well. And I know at the time, 4N, which was your main business at the time, was doing, well, you'll tell me in a minute, I'm sure, how many meetings nationwide every year. And then along came that thing called COVID, and suddenly, of course, the world changed. So what effect did that have on you and your business, Brad? And how did you, I hate the word pivot, but how did you pivot to cope with that?
So May 15, 2020, my business, all in, was around 2 million quid turnover a year. And May 16th, I think it was May 15th, actually, May 16th, Boris said, please stay at home. And my business became no pounds overnight. My business was 5,000 business networking meetings across the UK, up and down the land. I live over in Somerset now. I've got bored getting shot at in Manchester. And when I drive up and down the motorway, every single junction, on the left, on the right, Gloucester, Cheltenham, whatever, Worcester, every single one we had a full networking meeting at brewers fairs around the land. There could be 25 meetings running in any given day. And so we had to stop. And we was the first networking organisation to take our meetings online. We really was. I move fast. I genuinely move fast. It's one of my kind of cornerstones of how I operate. Have I got as much data as I'm going to get? Yeah, make a decision. And Barry said stay at home. And we thought, and I'll ask you the question, Keith. How long did you think that that this pandemic thing was going to go on for?
I thought it would last 3 months. Probably 6 months at most.
Yeah. And that's where we were. So we prepared for a 3-month battle. And consequently, it was bayonets on, guys, girls, and this is what we're going to do. And I kind of led the charge. I led the charge to keep people up, keep our member base engaged, focused. And remember, primarily a lot of our businesses were micro to small businesses. And as soon as you start standing on the hose pipe of a micro to small business, it starts getting increasingly fraught every single week or month that goes on. So we managed to couldn't get a C-bills. We managed to get a bounce back loan, 50 grand in, 3 days later, 50 grand out, gone. And now, but everyone's been paid off. And it's just been a difficult time. So we did pivot, we did change, we did move on. But let me be quite clear, we're not as big as we once was. And, but that's okay. And I mean that sincerely. I'm 49 right now. I'm 49. I'm not the guy who started this off at 34 or whatever it was. I'm 49 and I look at the world differently. And I think we've all got to start looking at the world differently. I think we've all got to start looking at our lives differently, because where we go wrong, and I certainly remember when I first moved from Salford to Somerset, is I was depressed. I'd go to the doctor, I'd get Fluoxetine, Prozac, because I was depressed. And I look back now 20 years on and I think to myself, why was I depressed? Because I wanted to go back to a time and a place that no longer existed, Salford, before I got shot at, right? And this is what people are trying to do. People are trying to go back to the way that the world once was. The world has changed. We've all changed. And it's now time to change with that change.
I 100% agree with you on that. But I think you've heard me say it before, but I absolutely believe that if we all aim just to go back to where we were, then actually those 2.5 years of peril for everyone were for nothing. And I think it's a real disservice to those people who, gave lots of time or sadly even lost their lives in that time, if all we do is go back to where we were before.
Well, I think the thing is about Keith is that, it doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist. So you can try as you might to go back to that, the entire framework. Now, let me be quite clear here. You and I are talking now on your 200th episode, and let me just tip my hat to you. 200 episodes, that ain't no fly-by-night. That's not flash in the pan. That's consistent, and that's what you need in business and life, consistency. And most people don't. Most people tail off early on. But when I look at this whole thing now about going back to a place that no longer exists, that is where people end up getting themselves in a mess. So if I look at my life and I look at getting shot at in Manchester, if that hadn't have happened, I would never have moved away. I would never have met my wife. I would never have started a business. I'd never written 4 books. I'd never have become a UK's #1 motivational business speaker, says so on my website. And I'd never be speaking to you right now. So everything happens for the reason, even the shitty stuff. And this is a bit that people don't recognize. So as difficult and as fraught and as difficult as it's been over the last few years, there will be a reason that will make sense at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm quite agree with you on that. Talking about podcasts, Brad, I know that you've recently, or you're in the process of launching your own podcast. So, what can people expect on your podcast? What's the aim of it, if you like, and what are you looking to do?
Great question. So, listen, I think the short version is I'm a motivational speaker. I find the positive in anything, and I've also got such a wide and varied network. Whether it's special forces, former police officers, former gangsters. I've got this wide and varied network that I don't know, if you used to have a Venn diagram, I'm not sure there's anyone in the UK that would have such a wide and varied network. And I'm going to be bringing interesting people on there who have either succeeded big time or failed big time, and actually trying to work out what the key and core decisions that were made that kind of brought that success or that failure to them. Because your success or failure in your life is going to be defined by your ability to make decisions, good ones and bad ones. And often in life, we don't know if something's a good decision or the bad decision until after the event. And I think that's what the Life Maker podcast is going to be about. It's about those core decisions that changed everything, and actually how life would have been made completely different if you'd have made a different decision.
Brilliant. Yeah. And yeah, great that you're carrying the Life Maker brand through there as well. I took part in your Life Maker course earlier this year, and I was really quite shocked, I think, in some ways, in things that I felt that I knew were skeletons in my cupboard that I thought I'd shut the door and locked it, but in fact I hadn't locked the door.
Yeah.
And they were still getting out. Whereas with your help during that course, we managed, to firmly lock the door.
Yeah.
And so I would say to anyone listening that, if you want to improve your life, do have a look at Brad's Life Maker program, because it's a fantastic way of doing that. Yeah, it's hard love at times. It's tough love at times, but sometimes that's what you need to get you through.
You know something, Keith? It's lifemaker.me is the site, but when I look at my life and I look at how I've turned my life around, it's having honest conversations with yourself. What we do is we kind of, oh, that's fine, I don't mind that one. One of the things that I talk about as a motivational speaker is when I moved into this house, and in each of the corners of the room, I'm in Somerset now, in each of the corners of the room was a spider. And I said, I don't get it. Each corner, like, true story. I said to the wife, do you want me to get them out? She went, no, it's okay. I don't mind small spiders. I said, where do you think the big ones come from, honey? And often in life, we've got small spiders that we think we can handle, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what Life Maker is about. It's about dealing with that thing while you're at your strongest.
Absolutely, yeah. And just to reiterate that, then, if anyone's interested, have a look at lifemaker.me, and you'll find all the details there. So, I mean, one of the things that you've done this year, Brad, I know from talking to you, is that you've sort of had a self-imposed news blackout on yourself, so that you don't watch or listen to the news. Yeah. I've tried to emulate that. I must admit, I can't do it. I can't shut myself away from the news 24 hours a day, but I do now limit myself to just the 6 o'clock news in the evening, and that's my fix. Yeah. But if you're doing that, how do you then, what do you do personally to make sure that you still know roughly what's going on in the world? Because obviously
Who cares? Who cares? Why do I, genuine question, what advantage is there to me knowing about what's going on in the world? Tell me. One advantage.
In all honesty, probably nothing.
Right. And this is the bit, I'd rather be uninformed and happy than informed and miserable. There's going to be wars going on around the world that I can't impact. So consequently, you are part of that machine where we're actually by observing the news, we become part of the machine that actually encourages bad news. So by me taking myself out of it, and I'm over 6 months of this now, like genuinely, I'm over 6 months. I started on Christmas Eve. And honestly, let me be quite clear. The last 6 months have been challenging, big time. They'd have been even more challenging if it had been into the news. If you think about a pint pot being filled, you can't put anything more in there. So by freeing myself up, I don't know what, for the sake of this conversation, maybe 20% of my headspace has been taken out by not watching the news and these wars going on and these travesties going on, that people and the mass shootings that are picked from the timeline. This is just like, stop it. So be uninformed and happy than informed and miserable. That's my view.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, I think. And certainly I found that, actually even cutting it down, that, as you say, frees up the headspace that lets you think of other things. By the way, talking about news, if regular listeners are wondering where the news slot is this week, I will be doing a special episode on Wednesday in the coming week where I'll bring you up to date with what's new in the world of GDPR, so that we you don't have to wait a fortnight for your fix of GDPR news, which of course is why most of you listen to my show, but many of you listen for interesting things like we're doing today too, and that's of course all the more reason to be here. So Brad, tell us a little bit about what you think, if you had to give businesses 3 things that they could do right now that would really start to make a difference to what they're doing, or small business particularly, what would you say? And particularly given that we're sort of maybe heading towards a period of inflation, is that a time when businesses should cut back their spending on marketing, or is it when marketing becomes even more important?
So, in today's day and age, cutting through is so difficult. And what could happen is you can get yourself in a mindset, sponsored links. That's what I need to do. I need to do sponsored ads. And the sponsored ads are great if you're Pepsi Cola Schweppes and you've got a $2 million budget and you can have somebody on there on analytics. But you'll have some company over in Wicket St. Trim telling you that they can do adverts and they do split testing and this, that and the other. And honestly, it's not going to work for you. If you can afford to waste money right, on online ads, as long as you can afford to lose it, should I say, not waste. If you can afford to lose it, go for it. If you can't afford to lose it and your mortgage depends on it being a success, don't. What you need to do, and I'd say this, look, I run a networking business, and let me be quite clear here. And yes, I'm biased, but I also know that this is your greatest chance of impacting for you pound for pound, because you know whether something's working or not. Every big opportunity starts with a little conversation. So actually the idea that actually somewhere along the way you can go to a phone networking meeting and meet 10 or 15 people and pitch your business. Not only are you pitching your business to those people, but you're also learning about yourself. You're getting over nerves. There's lots of sub benefits that you don't see. So I would suggest that networking is probably the easiest inroad to it. Well, I don't like speaking in public. Well, you shouldn't be, go and get a job, right? So you're going to have to do, I didn't like delivering pizzas, but I had to, because if I didn't deliver pizzas, I wouldn't have made it. So my advice to you is do stuff that, and ask yourself this question, does it move the needle? Second thing I'd say is write down every 15 minutes what you do. And, because what we end up doing is we end up spending 8 hours sat on a desk pretending to work, and 8 hours at 50% output rather than 4 hours at 100% output, and then go and walk around the park and go and skim pebbles with your children. People get it all twisted. This is the thing. People under stress don't make great decisions. So if you're stressed with your circumstances right now in your life or your business or your whatever, get that stress level down. Somehow get that stress level down. And I think that where we go wrong, is that we try to get the business working in order to get the stress levels down, as opposed to getting the stress levels down to get the business working. So 3 kind of brief tips there for you that I believe would work. But I would always say to yourself, ask yourself a question. Does this move the needle? If the answer is yes, what needle is it moving? Sales, morale, leads, whatever. And if it's not moving the needle and you sat there knobbing about, trying to create logos that deep down aren't going to have any impact, you need to ask yourself a question, why are you doing that? And I think it's probably generally, built a business from nothing, and I know what it's like to sit there watching Jeremy Kyle with a flannel on your head, feeling sorry for yourself while you're supposed to be working, is that I would probably urge you to go and find the book, Get Off Your Arse, which is my Bible. I wrote that book back in 2008, and started my business, Phone Networking, best known for, started in 2006. I've been in business now for 16 years with Phone Networking, 16. Statistically, 94% of businesses fail in the first decade. So on that basis, somewhere along the way, what I talk about in Get Off Your Arse at Goya, I believe, stands up the test of time, and it's basically what you need to be doing as a small, micro to small business to get moving.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Brad. In fact, I've got Get Off Your Arse and Get Off Your Arse 2, and they still have a proud place on my bookshelf. And it's a great tribute to both of us in a way, I guess, that we're both in that 6% who survived. Because this is my 25th year in business, which is really quite something. And of course, I've got a book too, and so just a quick promo for my book.
Wished it was a simple guide to GDPR? Well, now there is. GDPR Made Simple. Available now on Amazon.
And it's available on Amazon, just $7.99. I promised listeners that there'd be a competition this episode because of it being our 200th episode. And here we go. All you need to do is be amongst the first 20 people to email me in to feedback@gdprweeklyshow.com with which English county does Brad live in? And that will see whether you've been listening to the last 20 minutes or not. So which English county does Brad live in? Get that right. Send it in and you'll win a prize. You'll win a signed copy of my book and one of my cushions, which I'm infamous now for giving out whenever I speak. Normally you have to come to a paid event to get one of my cushions, but 20 of you can get one for free. Post it out anywhere in the world. Just send me your details together with where does Brad live.
A cushion?
A cushion.
Why?
Why? Because GDPR is the most boring subject known to man, but so I then need to make sure that people can rest while they're listening to me, But also, one of my plugs, and I've said it before on this show, it's no great surprise to people. One of my great testimonials from customers is you're Mr. GDPR. You're the person who makes GDPR enjoyable. And, I hope that carries through. And Brad, I'm going to ask you that. Would you agree with that? With that as a summing up of me?
Yeah, you know what? It's lovely because you've dominated the space. You positively dominated the space. You've not gone in there and you've been aggressive. You've positively dominated it. And I think you are the quiet man. But that's the great thing about what your subject needs. It doesn't need jazz hands. It doesn't need a motivational speaker, doing gun fingers. What it needs GDPR. It's a sensible and serious subject. But what you've done, you've actually give it some brevity and you give it some fun. So, yeah, well done, mate.
Excellent. Thanks, Brad. So, we're coming towards time to wind up, but I just want to talk to you a little bit about your recent things, Brad, where you've been talking internationally as well. We talked about you being the UK's #1 motivational business speaker. Got it right this time. But you're now talking internationally as well, and especially about when you met Tim Peake, because I saw your photos on and so on social media when you met Tim Peake, and it's the first time I think I've ever seen Brad in all the time I've known you actually be starstruck.
Oh, amazing. Keith, you need me to stop this dog barking?
No, it's okay.
So, Keith, listen, I've met some amazing people in my time. Dilys Price, the world's oldest parachutist, female parachutist, Guinness Book of World Record holder, Pride of Britain, Rusty Furbin, SES assault team leader for the Embassy Siege. These are personal friends of mine. And then Tim Peake. I had a 7-course dinner with Tim Peake, overlooking the amazing over at Dubrovnik, who was both on the lineup. And genuinely, he's a genuinely nice guy. I mean, it was just me and him, and we riffed. And, it's funny because we've exchanged messages in the background, and he follows me on Twitter and stuff. But there's been 7 astronauts from Britain in the history of humanity. 7. There's been 1 that's been on the ISS. There's been 1 that's done a spacewalk. That's Tim Peake. And actually, I'm actually into science. People don't realize this, but I'm actually into science in a big way, physics, quantums and stuff. And I genuinely am. So it was just fascinating. And we riffed, and we had some, there's some things that I couldn't repeat genuinely on here. Sensible operator. But, when I think about my life, Keith, and I think if I'd not got shot at, I wouldn't have been in Spain speaking a couple of weeks ago. I wouldn't have been in Dubrovnik, which is amazing. You really must go and check out Dubrovnik. It is the most spectacular place I've ever seen in my life. And then I've just been booked for Portugal and Las Vegas in February. So, somewhere along the way, I'm an international business speaker, and I made that happen. And this is the bit that people need to understand. I'm just a working class lad from Salford, Manchester, got shot at, no qualifications, addicted to drugs twice, 4 years of benefits, dad left on a 6-month-old who delivered pizzas. Or am I that? Or am I there? And we can choose to be a better version of ourselves, and that's exactly what we do.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and again, I mean, I know another course you run the courses, you'll be a better speaker course, which again I'm taking part in, and that I owe you credit to, because I know it's brought me on as a public speaker. And in fact, I took part in a conference this week in Denver, in Colorado, via video link. And it's the first time I think that I've ever felt really self-conscious was when the host suddenly told me that not only were there 500 people in the hall, but my face was on the screen 8 feet high. And if there's ever a moment when you think, God, did I shave well this morning? Then that's one of them. But no, I mean, again, that's opened up opportunities. And again, if anyone wants to find out more about being a better speaker, I'm sure they can do that as well. But where would they go to find that out?
Yeah, just Brad Burton /speak. But do check out the Brad Burton website and find me on the socials at Brad Burton. Blue ticks on Twitter, blue ticks on Facebook. Still logging for the Instagram blue tick.
I talk about social media. I know you have a bit of a love-hate relationship with social media, Brad, which is part of the reason why you established Network Central, which is in a way taking us back to old school online networking ideas. But I'm conscious of time, and that your time is obviously valuable, listeners' time is valuable. So I'm going to come now to wrap up. But if someone maybe who's listened to this, or I'd like to try some of that networking, but where do I find out? And does it cost anything? Can I do the first meeting for free or whatever? Where do they go to do that, Brad? So
check out networkcentral.biz and just go and find yourself a meeting. And if you register, it'll allow you to do one free. Or if you'd like a bit of more of a signpost, email pippa@bradburton.biz. Pippa's my right-hand lady. She'll get you orientated, find out a little bit about your business and actually where we can put you so it's most effective. I can say, look, it's when you go networking, it's not a fuel station. You don't just turn up there and you get business. I can give you stories of somebody coming along and getting a £20,000 job day one. I can give you stories of somebody getting a £35 million contract as a result of it. It's not the real world. But what I would say is the sooner that you start on this process, the sooner you get yourself there. It's a bit like a gym for business. You start going to the gym, you go, well, this isn't working. And then 6 months later, you look svelte. And actually, that's what this is about. Networking isn't a quick fix. But what it is once it's there, it's a consistent fix. And that's exactly what you need to. So the sooner you start, the sooner you start getting it working. Easy for me to say.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brad. So, that rounds up this episode of the GDPR Weekly Show. And as always, if you need to contact us, contact details for the show are coming up right now.
Contact us on helpdesk@gdprweeklyshow.com.
We hope that you've enjoyed this week's episode of the GDPR Weekly Show and that you found the information useful and informative. We do really appreciate your feedback, so please do email us at feedback@gdprweeklyshow.com with any comments you might have about the articles we've raised this week, or indeed any suggestions you might have for improvements to the show. The GDPR Weekly Show is a Insurity production. Please be advised that any advice given during the show is general in nature and should not be taken as specific legal advice. You should always seek legal advice according to your own specific circumstances.